The following is my conversation with Francesco Sergio of Nimbl. Nimbl is a premium cycling shoe brand that sponsors 122 riders in the Pro Peloton currently. Francesco has also worked as the European sales manager for Cervelo and Pawn, as well as for Cinelli. So Francesco, thank you. Thank you for being with me today on the podcast. It's a funny story how we met. It was last year at Eurobike, and we have kind of similar backgrounds that we've both worked in the industry, you a bit longer than me, but we have common thread with Cinelli. And then when you told me about your, which I hope you can tell me today again, the story of how you started Nimbl, your current company. I don't know, maybe I think it's a great story. So maybe if you want to get started, kind of how you got started into cycling, and then maybe we can go into your early career and then talk about Nimbl a little bit.
Thank you, Wyatt. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate your questions as well. So it is nice that we reconnect again after almost a year now.
Yeah.
So we basically, then it's nice. My background is pretty easy. So I've been, let's say, a very bad cyclist, and then after maybe 30 years, I left cycling and I started to work. And one day I got a call from Antonio Colombo from Cinelli. It was very surprising when he called me. I was in Madrid.
But
And then
you rode professionally?
no. I rode till let's say elite category.
Okay.
And then I decided,
You're from Spain.
I'm Italian.
You're Italian. Okay. But you were living in
I
Spain.
live in Spain. I live in
Okay.
Barcelona, but I'm Italian. And and basically one day Antonio Colombo, I got this call from a gentleman say, "Hey, somebody told me about you, and we would like to talk to you." And I thought he was just taking fun of me. And I say, "Are you trying to waste my time?" I said, "I have no time to waste." And he say, "Wow, it's his first time I tried to offer a job to somebody is replying like that." And I say, "Sorry," and then I say, "So who are you again?" "I'm Antonio Colombo." "Oh wow," I say, "Sorry about that. I thought it was a joke." He said, "No, it's me, and we heard from you, from other guy, and we would like to talk to you." And I took a plane, and back then I was living in Madrid, and I took a plane, went down in Milan, and then basically hired me, and I stayed there for 3 years. And one day Cervelo came, the opportunity to go with Cervelo. Back then in 2005, Cervelo was not really well known in Europe. It was pretty good, pretty strong in North America, Canada, North America. Europe was good, but was not still what is today Cervelo.
So
And
what were you doing for Cinelli? Were you doing sales or marketing or?
I was a global sales director.
Okay.
So, but the funny thing is, if we go back to Cinelli, I never had experience in sales, which is pretty nice. And basically, when he hired me, he said, "Oh, you can do that." I said, "Of course I can." Honestly, I lied to him because I love so much the brand and the job he offered me that I could not really say no. I was pretty brave, I have to say, yeah, fool and brave, I have to say. But I was driven by the passion from the sport, and then I was driven by the passion for the brand. I love Cinelli back then. I mean, I love Thieves today. I love Cinelli, but back then Cinelli was for me, I mean, like
It was a dream.
Ferrari.
It was a dream
It's a
job.
dream, actually. So, and then I started to work there, and I learned a lot from Antonio Colombo. He teach me a lot of things.
And you worked
Uh,
with some other big names who went on to, like, in the business, like Luciano Fusorpoli, right? Who
yeah, I would say that
he went on to be
sorry.
the CEO of Pinarello for years. Was he there as well?
Exactly. So
Who
I
started
would say,
FSA?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I would say that it has been not anymore. I think it has been a great university of learning from the bike industry. I mean, if you just mentioned two person that came from Antonio Colombo's hands, but there are many people that in the communication, in marketing, in sales. Now they work in a big company, and also little entrepreneur, let's say little people that really have a small company, entrepreneur that basically they start the first steps in the cycling. They came to Colombo, and now we know a big company like Canyon or Specialized. They also start from this little company at the end. And because so far I remember that Antonio Colombo and Mike Signal, when Mike Signal was young, in his first 8 years in California, he started to sell Cinelli, and so far the same story happened with the Kenyan people.
Roman Arnold.
Yeah,
It's
Arnold.
true.
Yeah. And but it's Antonio Colombo. It's a milestone, I'd say, in the cycling.
And so you then had the opportunity to move to Cervelo that wanted to expand their European operation?
Actually, exactly. So when I met first time Phil White and Gerard Vroomen, we were in Taiwan actually, and they say, we are looking for same story as Cinelli, so Colombo. We are looking for somebody. In this case, I really had experience then, and they said, "There is somebody with your experience, and we would like to open Cervelo Europe." But to be frankly honest, and now I can say, back then I was not really a big fan of Cervelo because they're completely different from the industry, right? They really look outside the box with airfoil shapes. And me as a Cinelli, let's say ordinary lover for a round tube, his airfoil shape so extreme was something not I was not very convinced. But then Gerard Vroomen called me and he said, "You have to come to Toronto. We have to talk to you. We will show you the company, the project, what we are doing today, and what we would like to do in the future." And you know what? I was brave enough to say, take a plane. I told my wife, "I'm gonna go to Toronto for a couple of weeks and then see what's going on." And then when I landed in Toronto, to be frankly, a new experience came from those days. So I say, "Oh, I'm in love with these people." Crazy, because honestly they were two crazy guys, Phil White and Gerard Rumen. But honestly, there was some very pioneer the idea they had in their brain, back then. And then, okay, I decided to join them, and I started Cervelo Europe. And back then, they hired me as the EMEA sales director for the company. And the company, we started the company in La Chaux-de-Fonds. Actually, with La Chaux-de-Fonds was where we had our first tiny house, Gerard Vroomen and I. So we were working in the one-bedroom apartment
in France.
It's pretty nice. And then we opened up to La Chaux-de-Fonds. We opened this big office, and we started our people. Then Cervelo Europe started back then. So, and then how I started in Cervelo as well. And the role changed for me. Let's say when Gerard decided to move from CSC, from Bianidis, to his own team, Cervelo test team, with Carlos Astre, Torusho, blah, blah, in 2008, but 2009 was the first year. And they moved my role from EMEA sales director to global sports marketing manager for road. And then they also gave me the later on. They gave me another responsibility. I was also responsible for triathlon. So at the end, they gave me everything in my hands. And then I started like that, working on sports marketing for Cervelo for until 2017. 2017, when Pon acquired Cervelo in 2014, I stayed there in the same role for 3 years. And then 2018, they decide to move me and head of M&A at Pon. M&A means a merger and acquisition, for those that are not really familiar with these terms. So, but something was not really working on that. I mean, it was not something that I really like. And then I decided basically together with them to take let's say a little break.
So you left in 2018.
I left in 2019 actually, because they asked me to stay a little bit more for the transition and to stay a little bit more to help them. And indeed, they also asked me to stay there as a consultant for a little period of time. And but what at today have a very very nice relationship with the Pon. That company is simply something really unique.
Sure.
I mean, for people that they don't know big company, everybody think the big company, they think that all employee are numbers. I don't think it's the case for Pon. Pon is not that. Pon treat everybody back then really well, and even today I'm still having contact with them, and for also for Christmas, Easter, blah blah blah. They always send messages to their regards. A unique company, very happy.
So this is where the story gets really interesting, if I remember correctly. So you were able to, because of this merger acquisition, you felt like it was time. You know, you had been there for 15 years with Cervelo. So then what were you thinking? What was your plan at the time?
That's something very interesting to think. And in my last year in Pon, I knew that something was I need to make change in my life. And one day I called Robert Reyes, that was my colleague back in 2014 in Cervelo. He was a managing director for a year and a half stay in Cervelo. But we had a very good relationship, and one day we were talking, and he say, "Oh, I would like to go back in cycling one day." And they say something came like, "Oh, that's why we don't do something together next year." And they say, "What do you have in mind?" I say, I mean, honestly, nothing really specific I have in mind, but what I know for sure, I think we should, if we go into cycling, we should do something that where technology is not really there yet. So we could not go with bicycles because honestly, bicycles are too expensive to, and the technology is
Sure.
very high right now. So you cannot
Investment,
compare.
the investment would have been big.
Crazy, but
Yeah.
also, I mean, to become like Cervelo, track specialized or Canyon, you need at least 10 years with a lots of amount of money and a huge technology, and we don't have honestly this kind of power to do that.
Sure.
And it's very complex too. Bicycle industry, the bike in itself, the frame is very difficult for people that they don't know look like the same, but I can say that the bike frame, to make a frame is difficult. And then we say, look, maybe something that we can do, we can go with the shoes. So we analyze the market, and really in the shoes industry, there are really few players,
Sure.
only few
A lot of
that
consolidation. A lot of consolidation. Do you want to maybe just give people an idea of, because I think, and maybe you'll probably know better than I do, but the shoes in Italy has a huge market share of cycling shoes, right? In general.
I mean, in terms of production, you mean, or in
Yeah.
terms of
Yeah. Production.
actually, well, no, not like it used to be before. So we have a big company like Specialized, for example,
Sure. Of
that
course.
Specialized, Bond, that basically are good players, major players in the shoe industry. I think Italy has a lot of experience and heritage on shoes and cycling shoes in this case, but many company they did not really they slept a little bit. They did not take advantage of the technology, and they did not really push on what we think they should do. So when we made the analysis of what we should do for the shoes, we analyzed the market. We took basically probably 20 brands in the industry, and we made a SWOT analysis for each of the brand, our own SWOT analysis. So our own thoughts about that. And of course, what we saw that there is always a place, even if the cake look like it's completely full, there's always a little space that you can find your own segment in that cake. And then we decided, let's go with that. So what we would like for Nimbl was something light, something stiff. And generally, what is light is not stiff, and what is stiff is not light. Just to get this kind of the perfect recipe for the lightness and the stiffness is difficult. But somehow we got it. We got it, and we need to implement. So Robert and I, we need to implement in the shoes. So, but we didn't find any any supplier in this that we can use our own layup, carbon layup. And
so you had an idea of what you wanted to do. You saw that there was an opportunity with some potentially, attainable investment. The investment wasn't out of reach. So you had some ideas about where you wanted to go. But was entrepreneurship something that you always had in mind, or was this something that you just sort of decided?
No, actually, when we decided to do that, so first of all, we call a friend a friend of us that is an engineer, and we ask actually to help us in developing the carbon layup we want, and he gave us the formula. But the problem was basically, so let's say, what we going to do now? So if we have the formula, so how we going to implement this formula in the shoes? Somebody should make the shoes for us, right? And then we went around a little bit in Europe, talked to several shoe producers, but nobody was really able to do what we want. And this was already 2009 actually. And one day actually I asked, Robert told me, you know what, I think we should drop this project because we don't find no one, and we don't want to make stuff outside from Italy. We want to still, our idea was to stay in Italy, make in Italy, everything in Italy, but we did not find a supplier that can give us what we want. And one day he said, let's drop the project. But something told me that don't leave this project. And I was searching. One day on the internet, I found this old gentleman. It's called Luigino Verducci. And I called him and I said, listen, this is Francesco. I have some project in mind, and do you think we can meet for this project? And I was wondering, he said, this other guy wants to do shoots. And he said, you can come tomorrow morning. So the next day I take a plane. I flew down in Porto Sant'Elpidio, where is the company today. And
It's in Puglia?
No, it's Marche.
Marche, okay.
Yeah. And not so far from where the Tirreno Adriatico ends every year at San Benedetto del Tronto. So maybe it's 30, 40 kilometers from the last stage of Tirreno. So, and then I met the gentleman and I said, listen, this is our project, can we start to do shoes? And they said, yeah, we can start that. This is our carbon layup. We should use your shape, because otherwise we have to buy also the mold. So we cannot buy the mold. So we use his mold actually. And basically he started with Nimbl. And in the same moment, he also had a Luigino Verducci brand. And so we to make sure the shoes were working properly, I had a good relationship with several riders World Tour. And one was Jay Thompson from Quebec. Another one was Steve Cummings as well from Quebec. And I told them if they could use the shoes. And I don't want to forget this day, because also Joao Correia from Ingamba, today he is Ingamba owner, I told him that this is the project. The first thing he said, I'm going to send you one of my riders from my roster, because he's also an agent rider. And Zabel also came on board. So with these 2-3 riders, we start, and then with some element to change in the shoes, the carbon, they ask us to change this or to change that, or to improve this or to improve that. Basically, we decide to move on in the market. And then basically to be frankly, 2019, end of 19, we start to sell some shoes. In 20, then we start more shoes and having more riders. And then today, I think we have 122 World Tour riders. And we have a Jumbo Visma today, or the whole team on our shoes.
So if we can go back to, so you had this carbon, you said it's a carbon, what did you call it? A
Formula
carbon
layup. Yeah.
Okay, like a design, some sort of a design.
Yeah, the way how you do the carbon is not similar. Depends how you would like to modulate, and they give you some rigidity.
Okay, so you had to
Yeah.
you had an engineer that was an expert in carbon fiber to be able to give you this. So it's sort of it's the sole. This is kind of the unique part that you guys developed. Was the sole of the shoe, or just the structure? Where is the carbon at exactly in the?
Well, the structure also. So basically, I'm going too fast because I forgot some step. Like when we gave the shoes to Luigino, and when Luigino we saw the shoes and we told him how we would like to have this and that. He also had a very good
this is the
idea
producer.
about.
This is
Yeah, yeah,
the manufacturer that you
but
found. Okay.
exactly. But then became one company
Partner.
altogether.
Okay.
Then he told us basically he used it. He saw the formula, but he also put his own thoughts inside the formula a lot. So he changed a lot, so also on the carbon. So also Luigino was he get in love with Nimble. And one day, I want to mention him as well because it is correct because he was one of the main player in this situation today. Because then Luigino, Robert and I we decided to make one big company with Nimble Verducci, and we decide to go ahead with Nimble as, let's say, a main brand, and don't leave aside Verducci. Verducci is going to stay in our let's say portfolio.
Sure.
We want to relaunch Verducci probably end of this year with the new different shoes, super limited edition, very light and different colors, different everything. But we own both brands today, Regina Verducci and Nimble.
So you had this producer, you found the producer, and he seemed to have, from a production standpoint, he had this, you guys had this collaboration, so you were able to begin making these shoes. I think we should let people know that these shoes are at the absolute top of the range in terms of quality, right? This is like the about as high as you can get in terms of quality.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So,
yeah.
And was that something you decided at the beginning? You were like, look, I think there's room at the top of the range for a very, very high premium shoe?
To be frankly, no, we didn't talk about that. When we started to make Nimble, first of all, we decide we never say we're going to position it high because we're going to make more money. No. We see the amount of work that to make one single Nimble shoes is so high, and today we don't make a lot of shoes. So still the idea was to never go mainstream. So we never go, let's say, 1 million shoes per year. So we cannot. I don't know what the other company are doing, but we want to keep we're going to keep control on quality on shoes and everything. And so far we positioned the shoes very high because the cost for us was high.
Right.
So if we want to get some margin.
It's a justified cost. So it was something that just sort of happened, that you guys had a vision for this shoe, and then by making it, it turns out that to have these characteristics, it just happens to be at the very top of the market, which it sounds like there was room for that product in the market. Then sounds like you guys you're selling shoes.
Well, there is something I learned in my career. There is room always for something new, an highest of an highest price or whatever you want to position. There's always room. The most important, you have to believe what you do. And to be frankly honest, when we made the Nimble, the year one we sold probably, I don't know, maybe 200 pair of shoes. That's all. So and you see that we also thought that maybe, I mean, it's too high position it, but we say the amount of job and then we thought maybe should drop the price and maybe we're gonna go, and and Robert said no, because the cost for us is so high to make the shoes and so difficult to make the shoes and so difficult to make the carbon sole lay up that we want and make the shoes so light, so stiff. We cannot go down. I mean, we don't make any margin on top.
So tell me about that first year, because this for me this is interesting. So you made this bet in a sense that you and your partners, you invested in this project, and you go through the first year and you only sell 200 pairs of shoes. What's that like? You were what?
Oh man,
you had been yeah, had already left your previous job. So this is it. This is everything.
Yeah,
you had
exactly.
all the cards on this. What's that like?
No, I have to be honest with you. You're correct. So I was a little bit in panic. But I have to say I have to say something. I try to call a few people in the industry, and not many people help me in that way. So
nobody helped. In what I've learned in entrepreneurship is nobody's going to help you. It's all about, I mean, it's you and it's you and that's it. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised, to be honest, because now, so when year one we saw that sales was not going as we thought. Of course, I would say it's normal as a little
Sure. A
company with
brand new
no
company. I mean,
experience.
it's actually normal. So
So I called several people in the industry, and I was wondering. I said, "Wow, I used to work 16 years almost in Cervelo. I was in the board of PON, and I was in the board of this company, and blah blah blah." I mean, I'm sure somebody's going to call me. Nobody called me. Nobody. I tried to call, let's say, friends, and when I called friends, they said, "Oh, sorry, I don't know because CEO they don't want to hire." All this excuse, right? And then they say, "You know what? I have to go. I have to go with Nimbl because otherwise, I mean, I was one with 1 foot almost out of the industry. If I'm going to stop with the Nimbl now, I'm going to leave the industry that I love so much." And so other people, they sometimes I admire people that can jump from industry to industry without any problems. No, but I could not work for a car industry or clothing industry or whatever. So bike industry is my heritage, it's what I love. And then basically they say, I have to put my focus on Nimbl 100%. And then I put my 100% focus on Nimbl. We work on a marketing strategy, and then step by step, I have to say that the World Tour riders help us a lot. And then we from one day another we ramp up the scale, and we see that Nimbl was working, and they say, oh, year two, that then we saw different numbers, and
so
then I say, wow,
tell
it's
me, so
different.
you put together a marketing strategy. What was your distribution strategy? Maybe if we can just go into that a little bit. Was it stores, exclusive high end stores, direct?
Exactly.
Okay.
We don't have, if you go today, we look for a shop that they have Nimbl. We don't have many. We decide to go with the only exclusive nice stores. So, for example, in Italy we have NOB, and we have a Velodrome in Spain, and another one is Domestique as well. So we have only, let's say, premium boutique stores. So at today, the strategy is not to go with distributions, so big distributors. So we
So
want to just,
you're going direct to stores.
that's why we select the store. We
Okay.
select the store. So we don't want to have a store that's close to another store. And no, we want to have just few stores in
Premium
each
product.
country,
Premium product.
extra very premium, and so on and so on. And the rest we sell online, basically. Yeah. Let's say today, let's say we do 50 online, 50 stores, our
Okay.
sales.
And online only on your store, or do you guys use any sort of resellers online
No, we do our own,
or your own store?
yeah,
It's
online store.
simple. I mean, it's very simple. You go straight to the dealer. You can dialogue directly with the dealer. You can dialogue directly with the customer. So this is sort of I guess, a plus to having a high, a premium shoe, because you have less touch points, where maybe perhaps like a medium range shoe, you've got distributors, you've got onlines, you've got Amazon, you've got Wiggle, and then you've got to keep all the prices in check. And so it sounds like it's a little bit simpler from what you're telling us. So you had these premium stores, and so from a marketing standpoint, the World Tour was your biggest factor. The World Tour riders that were wearing your shoes. You think that was the biggest contributing factor to getting the word out for Nimbl?
I mean, I have to be honestly speaking, having a World Tour rider helped us a lot, as I said before. But in terms of strategy, we always directly with the consumer. The reason why we don't at today we don't go with big online sellers such as Wiko, blah blah blah, is because we want to control also the service. So we want to control the quality of the sales. So we control all the shoes on people. They have any question, issue, or inquiry, they can reach us directly, and we reply directly. I also reply directly emails. So we like this kind of approach. Actually, I like the approach of having people ask us directly what they need, and if they have an issue with the shoes, and how we can help them. And because if we go with the big players, we need to run the company in a different way. And
Sure.
today, I'm not really ready to go in that way today. And it can be tomorrow you're going to change. Yeah, because maybe we need help. But today we can handle this ourselves.
And so getting back to the World Tour riders we talked about, so it sounds like when I spoke with you last year, you mentioned that there were a lot of riders that asked for them specifically and that were wearing them, even that they weren't under contract. Is that correct?
Yeah. We even today we have I think from 122 riders we have seven, eight. They're under contract with other shoes, but they use a shoe cover, and they use Nimbl.
And so 122 riders, that I don't know what the numbers are, but that is that a gigantic that has to be the biggest investment that you guys do.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Then we do, if you see, we don't do a lot of marketing and even in social media, we don't do a lot because we believe in with the power we have today, we do what we can and to give. So we have a lot of demand from World Tour riders for the shoes. Of course, we cannot say yes to everybody at this point because we have no room otherwise for sales then. But but we try to help all the World Tour riders they need. But somehow we also are forced to say no to several riders because we cannot. And this put us in a position that we have a lots of sale, well, not lots of investment on World Tour, because World Tour riders, it's not the fact you give 3, 4 shoes, 5 shoes per year and they forget about it. So we have to really make sure that they feel comfortable with the shoes, and if they have any problem during the season, you have to face the problem, you have to fix the problem, and you have to continue to talk to them. I personally send message probably once a month, at least one a month, to World Tour riders to ask if they need any problem, if you have any problem, they need any shoes, what we can change in their feet and so on. So some rider, for example, they ask for Tour de France, they want the super light shoes, because they want to perform in a different stage at Tour de France in a different way. Some other riders, they want to have, I don't know, stiffer in the front and less stiff in the back. So we have to face all these issues. So the good things of Nimbl that we can accommodate almost all the riders, World Tour or non-World Tour rider. So when we got a request I remember we got a request from a sprinter. He said that I want super stiff in the front, but no stiff in the back, which is when we got this kind of request. So you say, wow, what are we going to do now? So what is how much stiff they want in the front, how much stiff they don't want in the back? And then we have to work. This also help us to understand better the shoe market and the carbon and the production, the structure and everything. So it's something, a good challenge for us.
Sure. And so I guess we kind of skipped over COVID, but can you tell us about, because what I know is that the cycling industry was impacted in a really positive way during COVID, but that now as things have sort of pulled back a bit, that people have, are able to go and spend money on other things, that the demand is pulled back. But what I did hear, or what, kind of anecdotally in talking to people, was that for the performance, the enthusiast products, that the demand was somewhat stable, because when COVID happened, it was mostly the lower end or the mid-range by cyclists that did a lot of the buying. Was that the case for you guys, or did you also see a pretty significant lift in sales because of COVID?
To be honest, again, when we started, it was already pandemic days, years. So we just, when we really started the company, was 2020. So the pandemic was there behind the corner. And we never stopped to sell. We were growing. Of course, everybody grew the sales during the pandemic, and for us it was organic because we went from zero, so it's easy to grow. So everything we were growing was, for us, was, let's say, normal. Maybe for other company was more than normal because they never had in the same period the sales. So the different sales between maybe one year to another was maybe 30%, 40% more. For us, it was very organic because we start from zero. So for us, 2021, 22 was
What about
we were growing organically normally. I mean, we don't expect this difference. What is today? So I know today we know company in the middle low range are suffering a lot. The on our high ends, basically like us, we don't feel any. We are still growing a lot. So if you come to the factory, we never have stock because whatever we make, we sell. So if we make 100 is sold directly. So we don't have any stock in the factory. So the demand for us it's higher than the production at today. Yeah. So we don't feel that.
so what are the next 3 to 5 years look like in your vision?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we want to grow organically. We will never force our production to do more than what the market will request. So we have today 15 employees in our company, and we want to keep these people for, let's say, forever. And of course, we don't want to, let's say, stack the market, our market with the shoes, our store with the shoes, where we're going to grow. The idea is to grow organically in the next 3 to 5 years. We will introduce gravel shoes this year, which pass a lot in the new segment as well. And we just launched the new fit with the One Boa, and we launch now Giro Italia, and we will launch Tour de France edition as well. So so we're going to launch, and from this year to next three, we're going to launch from I think 3, 4 new shoes. So this is what we're going to do next. But always trying to control the production, the quality, everything should be made in Italy always. And we have no need to go elsewhere to produce our shoes.
And so in terms of product development, it sounds like the riders, the World Tour riders are your biggest source of product development. What are there any other ways that you guys get intelligence in the market?
It's a good question. I think there's nothing better than a World Tour rider that the ride Paris-Roubaix or Tour de France that tells you where the shoes need to be improved. This guy stays on the bike 5-6 hours a day, and you see if you have seen the Paris-Roubaix from yesterday, they go an extremely obsessive test on the cobbles, and we can learn a lot from their experience. So just we have a meeting tomorrow with the Jumbo Visma regarding the test of the shoes, also during the race, because we ask them continued feedback. And I have to say that the Jumbo also give us a lots of feedback how to improve the shoes. We're going to launch now, I think tomorrow, we're going to launch the new Nimbl specific speed play sole. This has been designed, let's say, by us, but has been approved by Jumbo. So they are proven on the stiffness and the length of the four holes and so on. So it's a win-win situation for us, but we use the team a lot for our development. So having those people, we don't need to go outside and search for or structure on yourself. Maybe we're going to do for sure, because you always need to look at a different perspective as well. But today, it's the best we can get is from World Tour riders.
Sure. Well, cool. No, this has been a lot of fun, Francesco, talking to you today.
Thank you very much.
It sounds like you have what it sounds like is a dream, at least in my opinion, a dream business. You found, you found a niche. You're able to find people that are passionate about it, and it sounds like you're in a good place right now.
Yeah. I don't think we are in a niche anymore. I think now we are really segmented now, because we used to be niche probably until 2 years ago, but today it's a real segment in Nimbl. We are a premium top brand in the shoe business, together with one or two other, and we are few players in this segment, and we're happy to be in that segment in basically in 3 years, 4 years actually. So we're very happy what we have achieved in so short terms.
Yeah, congratulations on all your success. This is amazing. Again, like when we met last year, I was really, really taken aback at the story when you told me about the business. So I'm glad we got to talk today. Can you just tell people where they can find you or find Nimbl online real quick? So on Instagram or on the site?
Yeah, we have our website is nimble.cc. So, and same for Instagram. So we have a nimble.cc. And yeah, it's we are there. If people they have any question, they can reach us anytime on marketing at nimble.cc. We have a couple of guys that replies all the questions people can have.
Okay, well, great. Thank you so much, Francesco, for talking today. I'm going to wind it down here, and
Thank you, Wyatt. Thank you very much. Thank you,
you bet.
everybody.